Wow. Hello, Birmingham. I'm back. I can, in some ways, scarcely believe that I'm on this stage this afternoon doing this, because you see, what happened on June the 23rd, 2016 should have been decisive. By a margin, a clear margin of 1.3 million people, despite the fact we were told, do you remember, by George Osborne? Oh, I've got better than that coming, don't you worry about that. Despite the fact we were told by George Osborne there'd be an emergency budget, interest rates would have to rise, taxes would have to rise. Despite the fact we were told by President Obama that we'd go. I've got a friend at the White House who would join in with that boo. We were told we'd be at the back of the queue. We were told 500,000 jobs would go. We were told the whole country would close down. It would be a disaster. And despite all of that, I nearly forgot, the leaflet that David Cameron, you see, you're not booing him, you know why? You've all forgotten who he is, that's why. And despite the fact that leaflet, do you remember that leaflet that cost £9 million that he sent to every house in the country, warning us, telling us what it would mean, but unequivocally that whatever we decided would be implemented. Despite everything, we voted Brexit. And I remember thinking at about 3 o'clock the next morning, we've done it. We've done it. We've won this great battle. I really believe we've done it. And then, a year later, after Mrs. May, a Remainer, despite the fact she, in her general election manifesto, and let's remember, Jeremy Corbyn, in the Labour manifesto, they both promised us in that general election that if you vote for us, we will carry out your wishes and make sure that Brexit happens. So we didn't vote Brexit once, we voted Brexit twice. And I thought then, we're on our way. And then the House of Commons voted on Article 50, that piece of the European Treaty that said we would leave on March the 29th, and 498 MPs voted for it. It carried in the Commons with an extraordinary majority of 384. And Article 50 said we would leave on March the 29th with or without a deal. And I genuinely thought and believed on that day that we'd won. I genuinely believed we were on the path to becoming an independent, self-governing, proud, normal nation. And I'll admit that I perhaps did not spend so much of my life on the front line of politics. I thought I'd achieved the goal that I'd worked so hard for over the course of 25 years. And yet I am here before you today because then I could not comprehend the sheer deceit, dishonesty, frankly verging on treachery that we have seen. They have betrayed our confidence. They have betrayed our trust. They have betrayed the entire democratic system that we in this country have valued so greatly. That those that went before us And let's remember those generations that went before us, ably aided and helped by those from right across the Commonwealth. Twice in the 20th century, we made massive sacrifices so that we could be a free, independent, democratic nation. And now we see a gutless, useless, spineless class of career politicians, most of whom have never had a proper job in their lives. And none of whom have a clue how to do a deal, and they've led us to this mess. We've kicked the can down the road once, from the 29th of March to the 12th of April. We should have left the European Union at 11 p.m. last night, but now we're told it won't happen until the 31st of October. Halloween. Trick or treaty. And it's just not good enough. Now, I realized in December that the can was going to get kicked down the road, and I decided something had to be done about it. And that is why I decided I would set up the Brexit Party, because it needed to be done. And today, we launched the campaign yesterday. Today is our first day of actually campaigning out with the public. We've been around the Bullring Market this morning. I can tell you I was there the week before the referendum back in 2016. The mood today was even stronger than it was just before that referendum. Oh yes. And so I find myself, having spent 20 years in the European Parliament, 20 years I've been there. Although I think I've enjoyed it more than they have, let's put it like that. One or two speeches that have done quite well on YouTube, I seem to remember. But I find myself now standing here today in my 6th European election campaign. I shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be here. None of this should be happening. We should have left the European Union. But I'm damned if after 25 years of fighting for this, I'm going to roll over and allow these politicians to do this to us. So let's fight back. Let's fight back. We won't stand for it. We won't stand for it. Thank you. But the Brexit Party is now not just about Brexit. In fact, the word Brexit is about far more than us becoming an independent, self-governing nation. The word Brexit sums up the real division that exists in this country. Now, you'll be told that Britain is very divided because of Brexit. The truth is, the reason we have some division in this country over Brexit is that so many of our career political class simply refused to accept the result. Sir Nick Clegg being one. Yeah. Nick Clegg has never accepted the result. Now this one is top of the pops. Tony Blair. Oh, I enjoyed that. Tony Blair never accepted the result. And in fact, a House of Commons that is a Remain House of Commons and a government that is made up of a Prime Minister, and two-thirds of a cabinet that our Remainers have just simply refused to accept the democratic result. We're told that we didn't know what we were voting for. How dare they? How dare they dare speak down to us like that? But it was perfectly clear. Every single leading proponent of both the Leave and the Remain arguments in that referendum said that a vote to leave was a vote to leave the European Union, to leave the single market, and to leave the customs union. It could not have been clearer. And yet, now we have the spectre of Mrs. May and Mr. Corbyn now trying to negotiate a new form of wording in the political declaration that is added to her dreadful treaty. And by the way, that treaty that Mrs. May wants to get signed through the House of Commons is such a shameful document, it could only ever have been signed by somebody who had been defeated in war. It is a travesty of a document, and it must never pass. But now we face European elections. They're going to happen on the 23rd of May. And can I tell you, after the launch of this party yesterday, the establishment is now panicking. Now, I'm an old-timer. I've done this many times. This is my 6th European campaign. Richard Tice here, this is his first ever day campaigning as a candidate. Well done, Richard. I talked him into it over a glass of something, and he has no idea what's just happened to his life, but there we are. But I want to say this. If they think, and by the way, the launch yesterday went well. It went really, really well. People are joining us online. People are giving money to us online. I saw today in the streets of Birmingham a genuine, real enthusiasm for what we are trying to do. It is fresh, it is new, it is professional, it is patriotic in every single way. And you know something? We're fighting this campaign with one simple objective: to win. But there are some in the commentariat who think, what they'll do to stop the Brexit Party winning these elections is they will come to a deal between the Labour and Conservative parties. They'll come to a deal on a form of permanent customs union. They'll come to a deal on membership of the single market. They'll come to a deal on the continued free movement of people. They'll come to a deal, and that'll be great because it'll stop the Brexit Party from taking off. Let me tell you, if that grubby deal happens, and if they're able to stop, which I don't believe they are, but if they're able to stop these European elections, far from that stopping the Brexit Party in the face of a level of betrayal on that level will literally explode and split the other parties in two. Oh yes, it will. The truth of it is, there is not great division in this country because most people in this country are decent people. Most people in this country, many who voted Remain, say, but I thought we were a democratic nation. Wouldn't it be wrong not to carry out the wishes of the people? And actually, this is now about far more than us leaving the European Union. This is about our country, with one of the longest serving continuous parliaments in the world, a parliament that is called the mother of parliaments. Can you imagine if in an African country an election, a referendum, had literally been overturned? Can you imagine the outcry from the international community? There'd be demands for the United Nations to be sent in and sort the thing out. And yet, that is exactly what is happening in our country, our supposedly great country. This is about democracy. This is about trust that needs to exist between the governors and the governed for the smooth functioning of a nation. This is about who we are as a country in the world. And what I see is a political class who are happy once every few weeks to return to Brussels like Oliver, saying, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" I've had enough of this. I've had enough of this. I don't want to see Britain humiliated on the world stage. And I believe in the hearts of people in this country that they don't want that either. Our problem is this. Our problem is not the British people who still believe in our nation, believe in our future, believe in our country, and are unashamed to be patriotic about it. Our problem is not with the people. Our problem is with our leaders who for decades have operated a policy of managed decline. We have the wrong people leading us. Career politics has taken over. We used to have people in Parliament and in politics and in government who did it out of conviction, who did it out of a sense of duty. We now are filled with careerists. The nation is being let down, and I genuinely believe that this country now, we are lions led by donkeys. So, we are fighting back. We're fighting back today on the streets of Birmingham. We'll be fighting back every single day, not just of this European election campaign. In fact, for us in the Brexit Party, the 23rd of May is just the beginning. We want to change politics for good. Change politics for good, completely. To go on to fight, we'll go on to fight by-elections, we'll go on to fight general elections. Parliament no longer represents the people of this country. We must do something about that. Thank you. I embarrass easily, you know. You believe that, you believe anything. Anyway. And our two-party system is no longer fit for purpose. Politics needs breaking up. Politics needs changing. And I believe we can. I believe we can, within the Brexit Party now, be the catalyst for a fundamental change in the way this country is organised, the way this country is run. I know that this is the most ambitious thing I've ever said on a political platform before in my life. But you know something? I've got a track record of saying ambitious things. In fact, I did repeat it in the European Parliament 3 days after the referendum in 2016. And I arrived in the Parliament and it was as if you were attending a funeral. I mean, they were not Well, you wouldn't be happy if someone took away 15 billion quid a year, would you? I mean, you know. And I remember getting up for that speech thinking, well, maybe, just maybe for the first time in my career in this institution, they might just treat me with a degree of respect. You see, I'm prone to folly, prone to error. And of course, I got up to speak, and about 400 of them started booing. So I thought, right, you're going to have some now. So I said, when I came here 17 years ago, I said to you, I would lead a campaign to take the United Kingdom out of the European Union. And I said, you all laughed at me. Well, I said, you're not laughing now. And so it is with this ambition with the Brexit Party. It may seem to be impossible. It may seem to be too difficult. But I believe if ever there was a time for a fundamental change and shake-up in politics, in government, in our institutions, in the way in which they're run, if ever there was a time this was possible, it is now. But of course, Richard, myself, the other candidates, our team, all we can do is to provide the opportunity for those of you out there in our country, voters, to decide whether you're going to back us, to decide whether you're going to support us, to decide whether you're prepared to talk to your friends and your family, to decide whether this actually is worth the battle. And I have to say this to those of you that have come here today at incredibly short notice, and thank you. I can tell as the campaign goes on, we're going to need bigger venues, I think. I really do. But I can only say this, that fundamental change, taking on and beating the establishment, are not things that happen because decent people nod their head and say, I agree with that. Fundamental shifts in society, the rebalancing that we need between people and the politicians, will only come if people like you, attending events like this, people watching this now at home on the live stream or on the news later, it will only come if you determine not just to agree with us, but you determine that you will do something about it. And I ask you, are you with us? Yeah! Thank you very much indeed. We're fighting back. Yep. There we are. It's my Freddie Mercury bit. Thank you.